Chapter 1. The Puppet Awakens. It was the summer of 2025 when Jamie Holloway and his mother moved into his late grandfather's house in the forgotten town of Clayridge. The kind of place that didn't show up on most maps. The kind of place where the past never truly died, it just waited. The house stood like a wounded animal, tall, creaky, and full of shadows that clung to the walls like dust. His mother called it quaint, Jamie called it creepy, but after his father's sudden death, they needed a fresh start. Clayridge was all they could afford. Jamie was 12, not quite a child anymore, but still afraid of the dark, and something about this house made him feel like the dark was afraid too. On the second day, while helping unpack boxes, Jamie found a door he hadn't noticed before narrow, with a rusty latch hidden behind a hanging tapestry in the hallway. "What's up there?" he asked. "Just the attic," his mom replied, distracted. "Your grandfather kept junk up there. Don't bother." But Jamie's curiosity didn't agree. That night, while his mother slept, he crept back to the door, heart pounding. He pulled the latch. It groaned like a warning. The wooden stairs led to a place frozen in time. Cobwebs draped over forgotten furniture. Old trunks lined the walls, and then he saw it. In the farthest corner sat a wooden puppet, perched on a child-sized chair, its head tilted as if listening. Its painted smile had chipped away, revealing worn wood beneath. One glass eye was missing, the other stared directly at him. It hadn't been there before. Jamie felt an icy breeze, though the windows were sealed shut. He took a step closer. The puppet's hand was raised, pointing at him. He froze. "Nope," he whispered, backing away. But the floorboard creaked beneath him and the puppet tipped forward, falling from the chair. Yet it didn't hit the floor. Jamie gasped. It was standing on its own, legs stiff, head twitching. He ran. The attic door slammed behind him, and from the other side, he heard it. A whisper in a child's voice. "Finally, someone found me." Chapter 2. Forgotten Names. Jamie barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that wooden puppet's glass eye gleaming in the attic's darkness. The way it stood, the voice that whispered, it wasn't just in his ears. It was inside his head. The next morning, his mom noticed the dark circles under his eyes. "You okay, sweetie?" Jamie hesitated. "Did Grandpa ever keep toys?" "Toys?" She frowned. "No." "Why?" "Nothing," he lied. But something about her paws made his skin crawl. Like she knew something. Like she was hiding it. After breakfast, Jamie found himself wandering back to the hallway, staring at the tapestry that hid the attic door. He didn't want to go up there, but something pulled at him. Not curiosity, compulsion. He went back up. The puppet wasn't where it had been. Not on the chair. Not on the floor. Gone. The attic was silent, except for the distant ticking of an old clock buried beneath dust. He turned to leave and stopped cold. On the wall, drawn in the soot of decades, were names. Carved by a child's hand. Eli. Grace. Tommy. Ava. Miles. Dozens of names, each scratched into the wall like a desperate message. A few were fresh. One, very fresh. Jamie's blood ran cold. He hadn't written it. No one else could have. A creak behind him. He turned slowly. The puppet sat again in the chair, but this time it was smiling wider. Its other eye, the one that had been missing, was now glowing a soft red. Jamie ran out again, but when he got to the bottom of the stairs, the door wouldn't open. He pulled, slammed, screamed. From behind, he heard footsteps tiny dot, wooden dot echoing. They stopped right behind him, then tap. A little hand touched his shoulder. The attic went black. Chapter 3. The marionettes game. Jamie awoke on the attic floor, his body cold, his skin clammy. The air was thick with dust, but it wasn't just the attic that felt wrong. Something inside him had changed. He scrambled down the stairs and slammed the attic door shut behind him, jamming a chair under the knob. His heart was still racing when he looked in the mirror in the hallway. For a moment, he swore his eyes weren't his own. In the reflection, his pupils looked slightly larger, darker. Something blinked twice inside each one. He blinked hard, gone. At school, Jamie sat alone during lunch. He tried to forget what happened, but the whispers came anyway. Not out loud. Inside his head, a soft, sing-song voice. Red strings on fingers, souls that linger, play with me, or I get bigger. He gasped, knocking over his milk. Nobody noticed. That night, he locked his bedroom door, stuffed towels under the cracks, and left the lights on. But round 2 o'clock a.m., the lights began to flicker, one by one, until darkness swallowed the room whole. Then came the tapping, not from the hallway, from the inside of his closet. Jamie froze in bed, paralyzed. The tapping turned into scratching, and then a whisper directly into his ear, though no one was there. "Do you want to play a game?" The closet door creaked open. Inside stood the puppet, but it wasn't alone. Behind it, a child's silhouette, its face blurred like an old photograph. "Who are you?" Jamie choked out. The figure stepped forward, and the air around Jamie turned ice cold. "We're the Forgotten," it whispered, "and you're one of us now." Then the puppet raised its hand, 3 fingers extended. 3 names glowed faintly on its chest. Tommy, Ava, Jamie. 3 players, 3 lives, 1 game. And the game had just begun. Chapter 4. The Death's Clayridge had always been a quiet town, place where nothing big ever happened, until the first child went missing. Ava Carlisle, age 11, disappeared on her walk home from school. Her red bicycle was found by the creek standing upright, her backpack still in the basket, but she was gone, vanished. The town was shaken. Flyers went up, police patrolled, but no one had answers. Jamie saw her that night, not alive, not fully. She stood outside his window in the fog. Her eyes were empty, hollow, like marble soaked in milk. She opened her mouth but said nothing, only a wheezing gasp. He screamed. His mother rushed in, but Ava was gone. The next day, Tommy Brill, age 10, collapsed in the school hallway. His eyes rolled back, and he began speaking in a voice that wasn't his. "Pull the strings, cut the soul. 3 must play, 1 must go." Teachers dragged him to the nurse's office. By the time paramedics arrived, Tommy was dead. The cause, unknown. His heart simply stopped. At the funeral, Jamie stood by the back pew, trembling. That night, the puppet visited again. But this time, it was dragging something behind it. A string-dot red-dot soap. At the end of the string was a shoe, Tommy's. The puppet turned to Jamie and tilted its head. "Tag, you're it," Jamie screamed. But no sound came out. He awoke in bed soaked in sweat, holding a string in his hand. The next day, the third name his own was written in red chalk on the school's brick wall. No one else saw it but him. The game was getting closer, and Jamie knew he was next, unless he found out where it all began and how to end it. Chapter 5. The town that lied. Jamie couldn't sit still. The kids were gone. He was next, and no one in Clayridge seemed to care, not the teachers, not the sheriff, not even his own mother. Like the town was pretending nothing happened. He went to the library, not for books but for records, newspapers, microfilm, obituaries. He started digging into the town's past. He didn't know what he was looking for until he found it. An article from 1965. Headline: "For local children missing in 1 week. Families claim they just vanished. Names: Miles Hunt, Emily Crane, David Rook, and Eli Granger." He froze at that last name. Eli. It was the first name carved into the attic wall. He looked up Eli Granger. There was no death record. No grave. Just one note in the town's registry. Case closed. No further inquiry. Jamie dug deeper. Every 20 years, for children disappeared. 1965. 1985. 2005. And now 2025. It wasn't random. It was a pattern. He ran home and climbed into the attic, armed with a flashlight and his dad's old baseball bat. The puppet wasn't there, but something else was. A trapdoor. It was hidden beneath the rotting floorboards. He pulled it open. A staircase descended into blackness, not just a basement. Something older. Something built long before the house, carved into the earth itself. He descended. The air was colder than death. The walls were made of stone, damp and moss-covered. At the bottom, he found a circle of dolls, each hand-stitched, each with a child's name written on a tag. In the center of the circle, a wooden box. Inside the box, something ancient stirred. A face, not a human one, more like a mask carved of bark and bone. 2 black pits for eyes, and it spoke without sound. They knew. They all knew. "The town gave them to me." Jamie stumbled back. The puppet was never just a toy. It was a vessel, a curse, passed down through generations. And the town let it happen. Chapter 6. Strings of blood. Jamie ran. Out of the hidden chamber. Up the stairs. Out of the attic. He didn't stop until he reached the front porch, where he collapsed, panting under the gray sky. But it wasn't over. He looked down. His fingers were bleeding. Thin, nearly invisible cuts across each knuckle, like something had sliced him with thread. When he raised his hand toward the light, he saw it, red strings tied to each finger. They floated in the air, vanishing into the distance, as if tugged by something waiting. He tried to pull them off. He screamed, But the harder he tugged, the more they dug into his skin. The strings were alive. At school the next day, no one looked at him, not even the teachers. The halls were silent, like everyone had fallen into a trance. A nightmare Jamie alone could see. That night, he went back to the attic. The trapdoor was gone. In its place was a mirror, old, cracked, and covered in dust. As he approached, the mirror lit up from within. He saw himself, then Ava, then Tommy, then dozens of others' faces flashing by like a carousel of ghosts. Each child raised a finger, each had strings, and then they all screamed at once. "He's behind you." Jamie turned. The puppet towered over him, larger than ever, its face cracked, hollow like a porcelain mask. Its mouth sewn shut. With red thread, it raised its hand. A needle dangled from its fingers. Jamie backed away, but his feet stuck to the floor, glued by blood. And then he understood. Each child who died added a new string. Each soul trapped made the puppet stronger. Jamie had to cut the strings, literally, or he'd be next. He grabbed the scissors from the drawer and began snipping at the air around his fingers. But the scissors melted in his hands. "Only one thing can sever the pact," whispered a voice. "A sacrifice are freely given." Chapter 7, The Sacrifice. Jamie sat in the attic, trembling, staring at the shattered mirror. The puppet was gone for now, but the strings remained. They pulsed with heat, with hunger. He remembered the voice. Only one thing can sever the pact, a sacrifice. Freely given, but what did that mean? He needed help. He turned to the one person he hadn't spoken to in years, his grandfather, Walter, a grizzled man with sharp eyes, a cane, and a past buried deeper than anyone in Clayridge dared to dig. Walter opened the door slowly, and when Jamie told him everything, the old man didn't flinch. Instead, he whispered, "It's come back." He took Jamie into his study, opened a locked drawer. Inside was a journal bound in black leather. Walter wrote it. He was one of the survivors. In 1965, he was the fifth child, but he'd escaped because he made the sacrifice. Jamie read the final entry, hands shaking. The puppet demands 3 souls to bind, but one willing death breaks the line. A blood tie, an offering, that which it hungers most. Jamie's heart dropped. The strings weren't just his. They ran through his family. Walter had passed it down. That's why Jamie saw the attic first. Why the puppet came to him. Walter looked him in the eyes and said, "I should have died back then. I cheated the game, but it never forgets. And now, it wants you." Jamie begged him not to go. But Walter walked up the attic stairs, cane in hand, into the darkness. He called out the puppet, "You want what you're owed? Take me." Let the boy go. The red string snapped. The floor shook. Jamie ran up just in time to see the puppet pierce Walter's chest with a glowing needle made of bone. Walter collapsed, smiling. The strings vanished. The attic door slammed shut, and the house went still. Chapter 8. But not gone for a few days. Everything felt normal. Jamie slept through the night. The attic door stayed closed. No strings. No whispers. Just silence. School felt lighter. The teachers smiled again. Ava and Tommy's names were mentioned during morning announcements for the first time. Closure. Or so he thought. It started on a Thursday. Jamie was walking down the hall when he saw a girl standing by the lockers. New student. Pale. Freckles. Wearing a yellow raincoat. She looked up at him and winked. But it wasn't playful. It was knowing. Jamie froze, because tied round her wrist, barely visible in the fluorescent light, was a red string. He blinked. It was gone. That night, the mirror in the attic cracked again, this time from the inside. He called out, "Grandpa." Nothing, just a slow, steady knock. 1, 2, 3. Jamie went to school the next day and asked around about the new girl. No one remembered her. No records. No last name. She wasn't on the attendance list. She wasn't even real. Then came the message written in red ink on the whiteboard of his English class. You only delayed it. Each night after that, Jamie began hearing music soft, like a child's lullaby played on an old toy piano. It came from under the floor. The house began to smell of ash and old wood. Jamie lifted his shirt one morning and found a single stitch across his chest. Thread. Red. He hadn't cut the strings. He just passed them on. The puppet never dies. It just waits for the next player. And Jamie, he was still holding the scissors. Chapter 9. The red thread never ends. Jamie couldn't sleep. Each time he closed his eyes, he saw the puppet's face closer now, more human than ever. Its eyes weren't buttons anymore. They were his own. He was becoming it. The string around his finger had returned. But now, others followed him. Students he didn't know. Neighbors he'd never spoken to. All with a thin, barely visible red line wrapped around some part of their body. He wasn't cursed. He was the source. He researched ancient lore, folklore from regions across the globe. Japan, Haiti, Eastern Europe, legends of entities that bind victims with thread, feed on memory, and pass through generations. One phrase repeated in every culture: cut one string, and 10 more grow. Jamie realized the truth. Walter's sacrifice didn't end it. It fed it. The puppet needed him to live, to act as a beacon. It used grief and guilt as bait. That's when the dream started vivid, violent. He'd see children in different towns, one in New Orleans, hiding under a porch. Another in Utah, staring into a well. A third, in England, drawing puppets in blood on a school wall. They were all connected. Jamie traced their locations. Every town had one thing in common: a missing child. Then a fire. Then silence. He made a choice. He'd go to the source. The first town. The origin. Clayridge's twin city, Duncewater. He packed his things, left a note for his mom, and boarded the midnight train. When he arrived, he knew no birds, no wind. Just a giant, rusted statue in the town square, a puppet with strings tied to invisible hands in the sky, and on the base, carved in Latin, "Those who play the game are never free." Chapter 10. The final thread. Duncewater felt like a ghost. Every window was boarded, every street sign faded, every soul missing. Jamie stood in the center of the abandoned town, staring up at the puppet statue It loomed 20 feet high, its wooden face cracked by time, its hands outstretched toward the sky like it was praying or waiting. He followed the red strings carved into the pavement. They pulsed faintly under the surface, glowing when he stepped over them. They led to the oldest building in town, St. Elias Orphanage, abandoned since 1903. Inside, the air was thick and hot, like someone had just left. Toys lay scattered across the dust-covered floor. Every wall was painted with children's faces smiling, but their eyes scratched out. And in the center of the main room, a marionette stage. Jamie stepped onto it. Suddenly, the red strings launched from the walls, wrapping around his limbs, yanking him into the air like a puppet. He screamed, but no sound came. A voice filled the room, not the puppet's, but his own voice, deeper, older, twisted. You played the game, now you perform. Visions hit him, every childhood vanished, every scream, every fire. They were all acts in the same play. He was the last act. Jamie knew what he had to do. Using all his strength, he reached into his jacket, pulled out Walter's journal, and set it on fire. The flames caught the stage curtains, the floorboards, the strings. The orphanage began to collapse. But Jamie didn't stop. He shouted into the flames, "You won't have anyone else. You hear me? No more." The puppet screamed, a sound that shattered the windows and cracked the sky. Then, silence. Jamie awoke outside the ruins at dawn, covered in ash. The strings were gone, forever. He walked away from Dunn's Water, and as he did, he saw something in the distance. A child, alone, silent, tugging on a red string wrapped around his toy. Jamie froze. Then the boy smiled and cut the string.